Welcome back to our podcast on Powerful Mothers. We are highlighting a few different moms from the Bible and how powerful they are, what courage they had to do what they did. And so today we're talking about Hanna. Hanna is probably one of my favorite mothers in the Bible because she wanted a child so badly. It was the cry of her heart. And she was actually the favorite wife of her husband. And he tried to comfort her with telling her, "Why are you so sad? Don't you know you're my favorite wife? Aren't I more to you than 5 sons?" And of course, we know the answer to that. Hanna was not satisfied with that. She wanted a child because, as we talked about last week, it was considered a curse to not be able to bear children. So Hanna was in a hard place. So they had a tradition of traveling to the temple every year to make their annual sacrifice. And this one particular year that they had traveled to the temple and made this journey to offer their sacrifice, Hanna was just brokenhearted. In fact, her husband's other wife was giving her a hard time. She was just really just dogging her because she had so many children and Hanna didn't have any children. And so she was just in a horrible, horrible condition of heart, and she was crying out to the Lord. We actually pick up on Hannah's story. She's in the middle of pouring her heart out to the Lord. She's in the temple and she's crying, and actually she's communicating to the Lord under her breath, but her lips are moving and she's crying. And so Eli the priest is coming through the temple at that time, and he sees Hanna and he thinks that she's drunk. He thinks that she's, just totally wasted. And he comes to her and he corrects her. And then she says, "No, this is not the case. I'm brokenhearted because I want a child so badly." And she just begins to share her heart. And Eli blesses her, and he speaks a word over her and says, "You know what? May you be blessed, and may the Lord answer your prayers." And instantly, Hannah's whole demeanor changed. She received his word by faith, and she dried her tears, and she stood up, and she left the temple that day, and she went home with her husband. And it says that she and her husband conceived a child shortly thereafter. And she had made a promise while she was there to the Lord. And she said, "If you will give me a child, I will give this child to you. I will dedicate his life to you." And so when Eli blessed her, Hanna remembered her promise to the Lord, and she conceived, and she knew that this child was dedicated to the Lord. That would be a really, really hard thing in my mind, to give your child away. And so Hanna did exactly that. She would not go to the temple over the next few years when Samuel was born, because she was still nursing him. And she told her husband, "When it's time, when I've weaned him, I will go with you to the temple, and there I will give him to the Lord." This was a promise that Hanna fully intended on keeping. And the time came for Hanna to take Samuel and give him to the Lord. And she did just that. And she came back to the temple and she caught Eli and she said, "Do you remember me? I am the woman that you spoke over and you blessed to have a child." And he remembered who she was, and she said, I am fulfilling the promise to the Lord, and I'm giving Samuel to you." And it talks about how Hanna would every year make Samuel a little coat, a little ephod for serving in the temple. And every year she would take this new coat to him. And she kept her promise to the Lord, even though it cost her something. Mothers, it costs you to partner with God, to see your children be who they are called to be. And I don't want anyone to ever think that being a mother is something that is easy or without challenges. There are times that you have to lay down your whole entire life to see your children be who God's called them to be. And it's worth it, though. And I just want to speak to you. If you're a mother or you long to be a mother, or you may not have natural children, but you have spiritual children, how important it is to keep your promise to the Lord, to fulfill your promise to the Lord, and dedicating your children to Him and allowing them to serve the Lord the way He has asked for them. And so Hannah kept her promise, and because she kept her promise, Hanna was blessed with more children. Now, I didn't highlight this, but Hanna was barren, and she couldn't have children, obviously. She was praying for Samuel. But I didn't highlight that Hanna actually, even after she had Samuel, was never cured of being barren. This is actually a side note. Hanna never was healed of being barren. She was barren the rest of her life, except that the Lord personally visited her every time she conceived another child. Because she had kept her promise, because she had dedicated Samuel to the Lord kept His promise to Hanna and gave her more children. I think He gave her 3 more sons and 2 more daughters. But He blessed her and personally kept His promise to her, so that every time she conceived, it was because the Lord visited her. And so I want to encourage you today that having children and raising children is going to cost you something. Are you willing to pay the price? And I believe that if we're willing to pay the price and we're willing to invest in our children and we're willing to partner with the Lord, that we can be credited with the things that our children actually accomplish. I know that Mary, the mother of Jesus, because of what she did, because of her desiring to partner with the Father to see Jesus be all He was created to be, that she actually has credit on her heavenly account for all the wonderful things that Jesus did. That is the coolest thing to me. I think, how awesome is that? That as mothers, we can invest in our children. Yes, it's going to cost us. Yes, it's going to be a sacrifice at times. But when we see them fulfilling the things that God's called them and created them to do, and we've partnered with them and we've actually steered them in the right direction, just like Hanna did with Samuel, that we will actually be partakers of the fruit that they bear. And so I want to read to you Hannah's prayer in 2 Samuel 2, 18 through 21. So Hanna had supernatural fertility. God visited her every time she conceived from that point forward, as she had given Samuel to the Lord and dedicated him to His service. She was blessed with more children. But in 2 Samuel 2, verses 18 through 21, I want to read this to you because it's a beautiful picture of Hanna and her faithfulness. But 2 Samuel 18 through 21 says this: But Samuel ministered before the Lord, a child girded with a linen ephod. Moreover, his mother made him a little robe and brought it from year to year when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. And Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife and say, May the Lord give you children by this woman for the gift she asked for and gave to the Lord. Then they would go to their own home. And here's where we see that the Lord visited Hanna, so that she bore 3 sons and 2 daughters. And the child Samuel grew before the Lord. And now Eli was very old, and he heard all the... Okay, excuse me, I skipped a verse, and it says, And the Lord visited Hanna so that she bore 3 sons and 2 daughters, and the child Samuel grew before the Lord. And that's where I wanted to actually end it, because we go into a different part of that whole story where it's Eli and his sons. But what I want to highlight with you today is that when you partner with God, He always gives more to you than you gave to Him. Even though it may cost you, it may be a sacrifice. Raising children is truly one of the greatest gifts that we can ever be given. And we get the opportunity to empower future world changers. And so I want to encourage you that being a mother is one of the greatest areas of ministry that you could ever actually be in and called to. Even if you've never had children of your own, you can be a mother to other people. You can speak into other young people's lives, other women's lives, other young men's lives, and just really see the call of God on their lives come to pass through your own words and investment. So I want to bless you with the story of Hanna today and how she laid down her life and partnered with the Lord to conceive Samuel and give him unto God's service. So I bless you with that today and encourage you to bloom in His presence this week.